In the magnificent kingdom of Eldervale, where white stone palaces gleamed and silver rivers flowed, lived a wise ruler named King Aariv. Under his guidance, the kingdom knew only prosperity. Yet, a curious mystery surrounded him. Despite all his power and glory, King Aariv never wore a crown. The ancient crown of Eldervale, a breathtaking artifact of gold and celestial sapphires, rested untouched in a glass chamber, its legendary gems said to glow with divine light. His ministers and nobles would often plead, "Your Majesty, the crown is a symbol of your authority. Wear it so the kingdom may witness your true sovereignty." But King Aarif's reply was always gentle and always the same. A ruler's worth lies not in what rests upon his head, but in what rests within it. The people admired his humility, but they couldn't help but whisper. Was he waiting for a sign? Was the crown cursed? The rumors grew, but the kingdom continued to thrive. You see, Aariv was no distant monarch. He didn't issue commands from a high marble throne. Instead, he walked among his people. You'd find him in the bustling marketplaces, across the vast farmlands, and down by the river docks. He spent more time listening than he did speaking, more time observing than he did commanding. He believed a king's place was with his people, sharing in their lives and understanding their struggles firsthand. One crisp spring morning, a young farmer named Leora approached him, her face etched with worry. In her hands, she held a small basket of withered apples. "My king," she began, her voice soft with reverence. The king smiled warmly. "Stand tall, child. What troubles you?" Leora explained. "Our village orchard is dying. The soil has lost its spirit. We've tried everything. If we can't grow apples, our people will face starvation by winter." King Aariv took one of the apples. Its skin was dull and the flesh bruised. He examined it with a focused intensity. "I will see your orchard myself tomorrow," he promised her. True to his word, he arrived at dawn, dressed not in royal robes, but in a simple white tunic, accompanied only by his trusted advisor, Seren. The orchard was a heartbreaking sight. The trees were weak and bent, their leaves pale and faded. The earth was dry and cracked, with a dark, creeping blight strangling the roots. Saran looked on grimly. "This is a slow death. Natural remedies may not be enough," but King Aariv knelt down, letting the dry soil run through his fingers. "This land is wounded, not wicked," he said softly. "It cries for repair, not punishment." Then he did something that made his advisor gasp. He drew the silver dagger from his belt, not to fight, but to make a small cut on his own palm. A single drop of his blood fell onto the cracked earth. "Your Majesty," Seren cried out. "What are you doing?" Aariv simply raised a hand to silence him. "I am of this land," the king declared. "If it bleeds, I bleed. If it suffers, I suffer. Let us see if it remembers its king." For a moment, there was only silence. But then a faint thrumming seemed to rise from the ground, a vibration so subtle only the most attuned could feel it. The king closed his eyes, and a gentle wind spiraled down, weaving life back into the soil like invisible threads stitching a wound. Minutes stretched on, and then, slowly, miraculously, tiny green buds began to push through the barren branches. Color returned to the leaves, blossoms burst open, and healthy fruit began to form. The entire orchard seemed to exhale, humming with renewed life. The villagers who had gathered watched in stunned silence, their gasps echoing through the hills. Leora fell to her knees, whispering, "The king healed our soil." But the act had taken its toll. Aariv was pale, and Seren rushed to support him. "Such power drains the soul," the advisor warned. The king just smiled at the revitalized orchard. "A ruler is not meant to merely sit on soil," he said, "but to be a part of it." The story spread through Eldervale like wildfire. Finally, the people understood. Aariv didn't refuse the crown out of fear or superstition. He refused it because he believed that true authority wasn't a birthright to be worn, but a responsibility to be earned through sacrifice. But this understanding wasn't shared by everyone. In the palace, a noble named Lord Virik saw not a sacrifice, but a weakness. He gathered other dissatisfied lords under the flicker of torchlight. "The king bleeds for farmers and weakens himself for soil," Virik sneered, his voice dripping with venom. "Eldervale needs strength, not sentiment." Another noble agreed, adding, "And a king without a crown is no true king." Fueled by ambition and greed, a treacherous plan was born. 3 nights later, during the joyous Harvest Moon Festival, while lanterns floated in the sky like orange stars and music filled the streets, Lord Virik made his move. He slipped away from the celebrations and stole the sacred crown from the palace vault. This was more than just theft. It was a challenge to the divine order itself. Believing the crown would grant him the power he craved, Virik, drunk on his own ambition, placed it upon his head. For a second, nothing happened, and then a blinding light exploded from the crown. The celestial sapphires turned white-hot, and the gold hissed like the sun. Virik screamed as the crown fused not to his head, but to his very intentions, his very soul. When the light faded, he stood trembling, crowned yet completely hollowed out. His eyes were empty, and his voice echoed with a terrible truth. "The crown does not choose the titled, it chooses the true." The guards burst in, but Virik staggered past them into the courtyard where the king was already waiting. Aariv looked at him not with anger, but with deep sorrow. "You sought power," the king said, his voice calm, without ever learning purpose. As he spoke, the crown responded. It detached from Virik's head and rose into the air, radiating a beautiful blue-gold halo. Then, before the astonished eyes of thousands, it floated down and settled gently onto King Aariv's head. There was no fire, no pain, only a calm, brilliant radiance, as if the dawn had finally found its rightful place in the sky. The entire crowd fell to their knees, not because they were commanded, but because they were compelled by the truth they had just witnessed. King Aariv reached up and touched the crown. "It weighs nothing," he whispered, because true authority, he now knew, was never heavy when it was earned rather than taken. Varric collapsed, his ambition dissolved, leaving only an emptiness he never knew he carried. King Aariv did not imprison him. Instead, he tasked him with restoring farmland, a place where pride has no throne and humility grows tall. From that day on, King Aariv still walked among his people. But now he wore the crown, its gems glowing softly, and the kingdom learned a lesson older than gold itself. A crown does not make a king. A king makes the crown worthy to exist. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more tales of wisdom and wonder. We'll see you in the next video.